All right, everybody. Well, I'll tell you this. Um, this is my 200th episode of Psycho's Platters. Yeah, 200th episode. 200th episode, always powered by coffee each and every time. And you know what? I appreciate all the people that have been here over the 200 episodes. We are coming down the wire next week, maybe sometime. It'll be the 50th anniversary show. That one I'm going to hopefully do a little bit specialer. But let's continue with the concert stories. This is almost like a radio play. Act 4. Yeah. We left off with the Vince Neil concert, that disaster of a concert. Yes. I took the kids to a couple concerts over the years. One of them, I think, was around the early 2000s. I'm sorry, my memory isn't that quite good this minute. But in Rockford, Illinois, because by that time I lived in Harvard, Illinois, and Rockford wasn't too far away of a drive. We ended up going to this thing called Wing Ding. Wing Ding used to be Memorial Day weekend. For the first few years, it was free concerts. All right, and so I took almost all the kids to this one, and it was it was Header. Header was a really cool local band. Honestly, I know they went going for a couple years, but I really don't know if they made more than the 1 or 2 albums that they did. But Header was pretty awesome. And then Familiar 48 was the middle band, and I think they only made 1 album and disappeared. And then it was Days of the New. Now, Days of the New, I can mention this much at least, because I remember that most of Days of the New split off, and it was just the lead singer. But still, it was a Sunday afternoon. I remember that. It was sunny out. I took the kids, had a little bit of money for them to get food and some drink, and it was pretty cool. Now, my daughter, Katie, she asked if she could be up at the front of the stage, at the lip of the stage, for Header. And I'm like, well, sure, go ahead. I said, but we'll be at this tree right here. And she still could see us even with people coming. And I know she was like, I want to say 10 or 12 years old, roughly. And so, the concert went real good. I remember, though, when Days of the New started playing, that it started to get a little bit unruly up front. And so I kind of asked Katie, I motioned her to come back over the tree. And she went off and she told me that she's like, Dad, there was a lady next to me. And she flashed her boobies at the guys in Header. She goes, what's that all about? And I'm going, I had to try to explain to her. I'm like, you know what, Kate? That's my daughter. I'm like, you know what, Kate? Women just do that when they get drunk or just, whatever. But I said, don't you ever do it. That's what I told her. I took her to another concert many years later, which I'll mention that in a future episode. But that was the first one that I took, the kids to, pretty much. And they had a great time. But like I said, by the middle of Days of the New, it ended up, like I said, there started to be a lot more unruly. I mean, up to them, there was no problem. And then for some reason, I don't know if just more people came in and were starting to make a scene. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's time to go. So we got to at least catch those bands, right? And then, let's see. So 2004, I saw Journey. I saw Journey in 2004. Journey going through a musical crisis right now. Are they going to break up? Are they not going to break up? I'm staying out of the political religious views of all of this junk. Journey's Journey, right? That's what we know. And but in 2004, they did not have Arnel Pinata yet. He didn't show up. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I got to see Steve Augeri front the band, and it was, let me see, it was Steve Augeri, Neil Schon, Ross Valerie on bass, Jonathan Kane on keyboards, and Dean Castrovano on drums. And Dean used to be the drummer in Bad English with Neil Schon and Jonathan Kane. You see, that's how he ended up getting the drummer's chair. So I remember that. I thought Kevin Augeri did a real good job that day. I remember that. But before we got to go to that concert, I went with my roommate, Pam, and, you know, she was a looker of a roommate, I'll admit that. And, well, she had to go to the bathroom. You know, it's one of those things that she couldn't hold in. I'm like, well, we'll figure this out. We found a nice security guard. She actually let both of us in. She took care of her business, and I started, because Journey was doing a sound check, and I started snapping pictures. But I think somebody figured it out, and after about a couple minutes, threw us out, at least till the show started. And but yeah, Journey, that was an awesome show, actually. But that was in '04 at Davis Park in Rockford. That's where they were playing at. Afterwards, because I am one of these kind of people that likes to stick around and get autographs if I can. Well, everybody signed but Neil Schon. Yes, everybody but Neil. Why am I not surprised? I even heard back then he was kind of a diva and really did not want to be bothered, which that's sad, honestly. Truthfully, I would say the most nicest was probably Kevin Augeri and Dean Castrovano. So was Jonathan Kane and Ross Valerie. I did get to speak to Jonathan Kane for maybe about a minute, and the one I ended up talking to the most was Castrovano, because I brought a CD that he kind of chuckled at, and it was Bad English's second album, Backlash, which, well, didn't really do real well in the charts. That one came out in '91, if I remember correctly. And he took a look at that, and he's like, what the hell? And I said, what? And he goes, every time I get a Bad English, it's the first one. This has got to be the first one I've ever seen, excuse me, for the second one to get autographed. And I chuckled on that one. And so I got that signed. And I don't know, for some reason I brought Journey's Trial by Fire. I don't know why I didn't have a rival. I don't know why I didn't have a rival, because I would have brought a rival in the collection instead. It would have made a much better autograph presentation. But everybody in the band signed it. You know, the one thing I hate about autograph type stuff, and I guess you really can't be too picky if they're doing this for free anyway, but is when people that sign stuff that weren't on the projects. Oh, that drives me nuts. But still, like I said, they were nice guys. At least the ones I got to meet. Let's see. Shortly after that, it would be, I hope I'm going to get my timeline right here, Jefferson Starship. Jefferson Starship came and played at the downtown Rouse Center in, I want to say, 2004. Also in 2004. Unfortunately, there was a family emergency, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get there. So I went off and I wrote a one-sided letter, and I went up to the box office and I said, look, I did talk to somebody here, and I was told to come here to the box office and leave this album and letter for the band, which is what exactly I did. I ended up bringing a copy of the album Dragonfly. It's one of the few Starship albums I had at the time. So I ended up doing that, right? So I'm like, okay. And I mentioned in the letter, and I basically addressed it to Paul, to Paul Kantner and Marty Ballin, because those were the two that were still in the band at the time in that lineup. And, well, the next thing I know, because this was a charity gig. So I went off and I sent, I said, if, I will donate money to the charity if you kindly would sign this album for me. Well, I get a phone call the next day. They're like, hey, guess what? You can pick up your album at the offices. I'm like, oh, fantastic. I appreciate it. So I go get the album, and I go and cut the check like I said I was going to do. And I noticed Kantner signed a beautiful autograph on this thing, but so did everybody else, except Marty Balin. And I'm going, what the heck? So all the other members that had nothing to do with this album signed this album along with Kantner. But it took me 6 months to figure out, because, that the internet really wasn't still that great to figure this crap out, but why Marty Balin didn't sign it. I'm like, did I piss him off? Was this an album that he just didn't want to, was there something personal? Well, I found out the true story. The fact of the matter is Marty Balin ended up having to get out of a couple gigs because his daughter was in ill health. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, then I'm like, the daughter ended up recovering, but the thing is that, at least I felt better knowing, okay, well, crap happens. I understand that. So that was the Starship one, too, the Jefferson Starship one. It's too bad Kantner's gone. I know Jefferson Starship is being run by David Freeberg, who was bass player for Quicksilver Messenger Service, and he also was on I think he was on the last Jefferson Airplane album or two, and then was there for Starship. So, I mean, I don't know. What are you going to do, right? So let's see. Who else? I want to leave one more story because I know these get kind of long. First time I met Cheap Trick. I think, was in 2004. In fact, I remember it was 2004. They were touring. It was On the Waterfront. On the Waterfront was a music festival in Rockford, Illinois, Labor Day weekend. That's what they would do. And that wasn't free, unfortunately, but you had tickets and such. So the thing is that I ended up taking my roommate Pam again. She liked Trick. I loved Trick. We went there. It was rainy, overcast all day. But the thing is that we did not expect, because they started the gate opening early. It was like 4 o'clock. So we got ourselves there. We were front row general admission. But I squinted my eyes to notice that Rick Nielsen was already out there practicing, the sound check with his guitars. I'm like, what the hell? So me and Pam concocted a plan. We found a hole in the fence. Yes, we found a hole in the fence, went through the hole, which put us right at the lip of the stage. I'm not kidding. I don't know how security didn't see this. They didn't see it at all. I'm like, what the heck? So next thing you know, boom, I'm right there. I mean, I'm looking up. 2 feet away from me is Rick Nielsen. And he sees us. And after practicing on and off, there was a little bit of a space. So it's not like, I was able to shake his hand real quick. I told him how much his band meant to me. He got me through high school. And he looked at me. He goes, high school? And I'm like, yeah. I said 81 to 85. That's when I went to high school. And so he was, he's very appreciative of that. And we also talked, believe it or not, about the Grim Reapers, which was the opening band for Otis Redding's gig that he died before he could make it in Madison. And I know it was a very strange topic, but I'm not going to go into detail. It was kind of cool about what he said about that. Kind of ironic in its own way. So the only thing I had at the time was a cassette copy of the Greatest Hits. I got Rick to sign it. Rick actually, threw back that with me with the Sharpie. Gave me a pick, gave Pam a pick. He's a class act. Rick Nielsen is a class act. And then the other person I met that day was Bunny Carlos. Bunny Carlos goes his turn. And he, after a while drumming, he can't hear me. And then, he finally pulls out the plugs and I start laughing. And I'm like, okay. Well, Bunny was real nice to us too. And we got Bunny's autograph as well on the cassette cover. So that was, and I got to say hi to Tom Peterson and hi to Robin, but they didn't come close enough to get any autographs. So we're going to leave it off here now. And I hope you like these, because I think I'm going to keep doing them until I run out, if that's all right with you guys. Please be patient about the 45s and the Elvis review. I haven't forgot. I will get to them when I'm in the new location. So I will see you next episode. Like and sub, please, and tell me some concert stories of yours, because I would love to hear them.